I'm what they call a watcher. We can see the future, even if that's not always as simple as it sounds.
Tonight, a jumbo jet crash. There are no reports of survivors.
Others are called movers, just an easy way of saying telekinetic.
Much of the building collapsed after about 2 hours, leaving only a brick wall.
Pushers put thoughts in your head and make whatever lie they come up with the truth.
They had already begun to control my mind.
President attack.
Sniffs, shifters, shadows, bleeders. It goes on and on. In Division's eyes, we're all just lab rats.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.
Hello, and thank you for listening to Cheapseat Reviews, the podcast that explores the Hollywood film industry for the greater good.
The greater good.
Oh, that's cool. Right on. This is episode 336, 336. That is my area code, which is weird, but there you go, 336. Actually, technically, it's yours, Andrew, not mine. I'm 704, but
Yes.
my phone number is 336. Not that anyone cares. I just thought it was interesting. Tonight, we're doing Push. We're talking about the movie Push. I anticipate at least 7 Push-related jokes or puns throughout the night. So I think that's the over-under.
Don't push us to perform, because then, we'll have anxiety and won't be able to.
I know. Then we'll have
perform
to
under pressure.
before we push forward.
There we go. We're already at 2. This is great. Haven't even finished the intro. I'm Sean Allred. I'm Sean, and this is who is this? I'm Sean, and joining me tonight is Andrew. How do you like your fish, fried or exploded, Jimison?
I love some explodium fish.
Yeah.
I'm gonna next time I'm at the Chinese restaurant, I'm gonna ask for explodium fish. The side of rice.
Just hopefully it doesn't explode when you cut into it. There's no Sam tonight, and that's okay. Just a thing came up and he couldn't make it, so not replacing him, but coming in also making her Cheapseat Reviews debut. Certainly not her podcast debut, but her Cheapseat Reviews debut is Laylia Can Predict the Future Through Podcasting Metcalf.
For sure. It's such a labor of love that I do for you.
Oh, well, I mean, thank you for doing it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yes. See? And that's push number 3 right there. Come on. Push
Yeah.
them out. Push them out. Way out. Okay. Sorry. I got to get them all out of the way at the top, and then I can concentrate on other things later.
No, that's fine. Hey, whatever we got to do to get through it, I'm all for it. Yeah, my gosh, this is the movie Push, and I am super excited to talk about it because this is one of those movies that I don't know why I saw it 100 years ago when it came out, and I just kind of fell in love with it back in, I guess, 2009. This came out. This is the same year as Star Trek, the new ones, the reboot, J.J. Abrams Star Trek. So it just feels like,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's the same year.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
That
It
certainly.
does feel like 100 years ago, for sure.
Yeah, it does feel like a long
Yeah.
time. This is 1 year. How about this is a year after Iron Man? Is that better?
Here we go. It's 2 years after the television show Heroes, which was related in content.
Oh. See, I know we'll talk about it, but all this is not helping the case for the movie.
Okay.
In fact, I don't know if I can just, this is a fun little trivia thing that I saw, that in some countries the movie was released under the title of Heroes because it translated better, and people went to the theater very confused because it was about psychics and there was this TV show called Heroes, but this movie is totally not with the characters from the TV show Heroes.
Yeah.
So people were disappointed.
Yeah. they're all wrong. Okay, so this movie, 2009's Push, directed by Paul McGuinan, I guess. I don't know how to pronounce it. Paul. We're just going to call him Paul. He's directed many things, many things, but he's mostly known for, well, maybe not known for, he's a TV guy.
So when you say many things, you mean small things?
Well, I mean, so he did the film Lucky Number 11, which we did for the podcast. And
that's before my time.
Was it really?
Quite possibly. I've slept since then.
That's true. I don't know. I thought that was within the last 36 episodes, but I can't remember. He did this, but he also did 4 episodes of the TV series Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah. That was okay.
Well, yeah. So the one that he did that reminds me of this movie is the Hounds of Baskerville, where he does a lot of that flash cutting and kind of shaky cam, weird noise kind of thing. It feels very similar to that. And he also did Victor Frankenstein, which we've not seen for this movie, for this podcast, but we should. That's
who's in that one?
Harry Potter and Professor X.
Okay, so I haven't seen that one. Never mind.
He also did.
I saw some really bad one with what's that guy's name that was Two-Face in the dark?
Yeah, we did that for the podcast.
That's why I've seen it.
Yeah, I Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. Yeah,
we did that.
That was bad. Okay.
It was terrible and fun at the same time. But
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. It's your job to interrupt me, I think. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, so gosh, yeah, this movie, I'm looking forward to talking about it. We, of course, have our 5-word reviews, which we'll get to in just a second. But had either one of you seen this before I forced it onto you?
I had seen this, I guess, when it first came out, or maybe shortly after. I don't think I went to the theater to see it, because I think I would have. Well, I don't know. I remember liking it when I first saw it, but we'll talk about how time has changed things in just a little while.
Okay.
I am pretty sure I saw the preview in the movie theater and then didn't see it in the movie theater. I had not actually seen it. But when you sent me a list of possible ones, and I watched previews for all of the ones that you sent me. And this preview, I was like, this is vaguely familiar. So that's why I picked it. But
this was I forgot that we did that. Honestly, I forgot. So great. So I don't feel quite as bad then. I don't feel like I made you watch this movie. Of course, I guess I technically did. Okay. Well, Andrew, I'll go ahead and let you do your 5-word review, and we'll just jump in from there.
Well, I hope this doesn't push anyone's buttons, but
that's, I think 4.
Here it comes.
Okay.
I have 2. Certainly. Well, sorry. How did I word this? I didn't write it down tonight. I always do, and I didn't tonight. I certainly misremembered this, I think was what I said.
Okay.
And then I forget what the other one was. I wrote down 2 in my mind, and I've only remembered 1. But like I said, I had a big test today, and my brain is fried. So, yeah, this is not the movie that I wanted to see. And quite frankly, the movie Jumper, which I think came out around the same time.
Yeah.
In the back of my mind, I think I just merged those 2 films together, and I really liked Jumper.
Yeah.
And this one was not Jumper. So there was a little disappointment when it came to that. But on the other side, there's just some things about this movie I don't like. Dakota Fanning, she was a cute kid when she was tiny, and she's still a cute person, I guess, but I don't know that she was such a great actress in this one. Like, some of her lines felt really dry and kind of forced. I'm trying to think of the one specifically. I don't remember. There was one, though, that I almost rolled my eyes out loud because it was really bad. And I was bored, and my my quantifier or qualifier, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
If the movie keeps me interested, then I think it has good features, and I like it. I think it's a good film. This one, it didn't keep my interest. So that's kind of where I am with it. And we'll dive more into it as we push forward.
Oh, it's great when they seem organic. You said that, I think both you said that you had not, or you said you had seen this before, you just don't remember it, and Kayla, you said you had not, and I do remember seeing. I didn't see it in the theater, but this was one of those where it was in, I don't know, it came out. There was like a rash of movies. You're right. Like Jumper was very similar, and I like Jumper too with Hayden Christensen. I thought he was a much better actor in that movie than any of the Star Wars stuff he was in.
Absolutely.
And,
agree.
Which is weird, but whatever. And I don't know, like this came out, and then like Stardust came out, and this is a few years after, like. I don't know. For this movie kind of like lives in a box of like these kind of same kind of, medium budget, but with a big name, but didn't get a lot of theater recognition, but it's kind of good. Like there's a bunch of movies that are all kind of in that same box, and this kind of fits neatly in there for me. And I think I'm kind of with you a little bit, Andrew, on the misremembering, because it's probably been 7 or 8, 9, 10 years since I've seen this movie. And
yeah,
I remember really, really liking it, thinking it was fun and clever and kitschy. And
that's not what we got today.
Well, so Kaylee, you may or may not, I know you said you've listened to an episode or two. So Andrew has one of his kind of little rules, is that if the movie keeps his attention, then he likes it. And whether the movie is good or bad might be irrelevant. If it keeps his attention, then he's enjoying himself. For me,
Hey, that works.
Yeah.
I mean, it's entertainment, right? That's the whole point of movies, is to entertain us.
Right.
So if it's not doing its job, then even if it's technically proficient or important, if it's not entertaining, then who cares? I'm with you. I support this rule.
I mean, I've seen movies that I think are bad movies. Well, no, let me rephrase. I've seen movies that I don't like that I think are good movies. They're made well. There's nothing technically wrong with them. I just don't enjoy them.
Yes.
And because they've kept my attention. But then there are movies like this one that don't keep my attention, and then there are also some issues that I don't think it was made very well. So
it kept my attention in that I didn't fall asleep, which is a bar that I set for myself because I tend to watch movies at night. And I fell asleep during a lot of movies in my earlier years of life. So I stayed awake through this whole movie. But I think if I wasn't watching it for this podcast, I might have spent some time on my phone while watching this movie, if that makes sense.
It
I
does.
have a lovely little block game that I like to play when I'm tuning things out that I might have encountered. I might have listened more than watched if I wasn't trying to prepare for this conversation. But I have some 5 reviews. Can I
Please,
share mine?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I had more than 2. I had 5, but 2 of them are just dumb. So I'm going to pretend like I didn't write them down. But,
Well, the you don't know our show. We strive for the dumb ones.
Okay, well then I'm just going to read them.
Yeah, it's fine.
So enjoy this.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is, it all started with Nazis, which really could be so many movies, but
Yeah,
it was almost a cliche of this movie too. But okay, I wrote 90s movie made too late because to me it felt like it belonged in a different decade.
yes,
It had a feel. It felt like a 90s movie
mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways. Yeah, okay. But then my real reviews here are just don't think too hard.
Yeah.
Campy art house kung fu with psychics. And my favorite review that I came up with was screams, flings, and Inception-like things.
Nice. It even rhymes. That's great. That's great. Yeah, it's
That was actually the first one. I said that while we were watching it to my husband, and he laughed. And then I was like, "Gotta write that down." And then later on, I was like, "Well, maybe I should come up with something that's a little bit, more, I don't know, better." So,
no,
but no
those
screams, flings, and Inception-like things. That is literally what this movie was to me.
that's
It's a lot of
amazing.
all of that.
That's
Yeah,
so great.
She's really pushing the envelope
Yeah.
with those reviews.
That's great. I'm writing all that down because if it was shorter, I would find a way to make it to be the name of the podcast. But that's great. Yeah, mine's not nearly as clever as that, but I appreciate it. Yeah, you're not wrong though. I couldn't quite put my thumb on the vibe until you said it was made too late. This does feel like it came out about 5 minutes after The Matrix.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I got a Fight Club vibe too, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. There was a lot of other stuff in the 90s that were going on, but this definitely felt.
Yeah.
It felt like it had already aged, and I know I'm watching it, but a lot of years. I'm not going to do the math. Well, 13 years after it was made, but it felt older than that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that thinking about the other films that came out around the same time, and this one, it really does feel like it was made in an earlier decade. It just, I don't know what it is about the film, but I don't know. What was there was one that you said that was made at the same time that really blew my mind.
Well,
Jumper?
Oh, the Star Trek.
Yeah, Star Trek.
So Star Trek, I mean, I know you can't compare apples and robot parts, but we
robot parts made by Apple? Wait.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These two films, they're like in different leagues, right?
Well, I mean, they
As far
are. I
as-
mean, Star Trek was a $150 million budget movie. This was 38.
Yeah.
So I mean,
But we've seen low budget films that are really good.
we have, but usually low budget films that are really good aren't trying to do some of the action stuff that this is doing. I mean, if you keep it, I don't have a list and I'm not going to create one, but if we made a list of the movies that are about $40 million budget movies that we've seen for this podcast specifically that are action movies, I would personally rank this towards the top of those movies because we've seen a lot of shit films that are in that $40 million range, like Kill Command or I don't know. I can't think of it off the top of my head as I scroll back through the list, but I mean, like Old Guard. Yeah.
Okay. I knew it. District 9 came out the same year as this.
Yeah.
That, to me, says a lot because does that make sense? Like, it was a different kind of take on the sci-fi world, but I liked District 9, but it was so different.
Yeah.
And to have this and that in the same year is pretty telling, I think.
It is.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah. And District 9 is, it's the same budget. It's a $30 million budget movie. And that's all shot on the shoulder. I mean, honestly, there's not much CGI happening. And of course, the big difference is you got a much better writer and you got a much better director. That's not a word. Director. That's a word.
Well, it's in the Jurassic area. That was a director.
The director.
Yeah.
The director thesaurus. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, that director went on to direct Chappie and Elysium and well, mostly he's done shorts since then. Those are only his 3 feature-length films: District 9, Elysium, and Chappie. Weird. Go back and do more stuff, guy. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong in that this movie is not nearly as good as District 9 with the same budget. So, I mean, I do almost feel like I'm going to have to be the one defending this movie, which I don't really want to because it's not great. But personally, I still had fun with it.
I had fun as long as I wasn't thinking about it.
Sure.
If you could just like let it wash over you and you're like, oh, interesting visuals and okay, psychics and oh, I'm just gonna like go along with the ride and like nod and smile and oh, what are we doing now? Okay, cool. Like that it works on that level. This is like a popcorn flick, right? And I wouldn't
Yeah.
call it big dumb fun, but I mean, there's a lot of movies that are big dumb fun, and sometimes that's just what you want is big dumb fun. This isn't quite big enough or dumb enough or fun enough to be big dumb fun for me, but it was fine. And yeah.
I think in some ways this movie had a hard time finding out what it was.
I
mean,
agree.
if it's an action film, I mean, there's action, but it's not the kind of action that I think of when I think of an action film. It's more suspense, I guess you could say, with a little bit of.
Well, in fairness, yeah, the director has even stated in something that I read that this is not meant to be an action film. This is not meant to be a comic book superhero film. This is supposed to be kind of a suspense, and then you add the wrinkle of the powered beings with a little bit of a fighting. Like it's more of the suspense thing than the action flick.
Yeah.
It's like an espionage film, but it keeps being like everything that I read was like superhero film. Push was a superhero film. Blah blah blah. And I was like, I guess I'm defining the word superhero differently than you guys or not you guys, but like people on the internet webs, because it didn't feel like a superhero film, and it didn't really feel like an action film. It just had lots of action in it for a spy espionage. Like the government is bad, and also there's magic. I mean, psychics.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Bourne Identity, but with magic or with superpowers a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit. Government's trying to get you kind of a thing. Shaky Cam. Just Bourne. I mean, honestly, we like the Bourne Identity movies because it's a good movie, but it's a simple movie. There's nothing complicated about that. He has to fight three bad guys. He has to fight sub boss and then sub boss and then sub boss, and then the final boss is Chris Cooper, who gets shot in the street.
Well, I think there's something to be said when you have a simple story that's told well.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is a simple story in essence, really. It's not told all that well.
Well, it's a simple story that they try to make complicated with the letters and the idea, like you're having to outthink stuff.
Yeah. And for being a simple story, but I did end up with questions at the end. I have a lot of questions, like a lot of times where I was like, is this movie lying to me or am I just missing something important? And at the end, when I have a list of like unanswered questions that are frustratingly unanswered, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to do my 5-word here in just a second. But yeah, you're not wrong, because sometimes there are movies that will leave questions that you're good with, because it's like, oh, okay, now I get to use my imagination to figure out what's going to happen. Like Inception is the perfect example, right? Does the top fall or not? Or any other number of movies that I can think of right now. I can't think of right now that leave you questions and that you're good with. I mean, there are a lot of times though we get to a movie and we're like, what? I'm confused. And I think that happened recently, Andrew. I can't think of what it was recently, but I remember we were all just asking questions to ourselves because obviously we didn't have the answers. I don't remember what that was off the top of my head, but it was.
I don't either.
Well, Wonder Woman 84 left a lot of asking a lot of questions. I think that might have been Wonder Woman 84, or even The Killing Joke left a couple questions. But anyway, so my 5-word
push it to us.
Is I'm gonna push it real good. So, not so superheroes, and then in parentheses, my last word was screams.
Yeah. As a writer, I'm coming up with these superpowers, right? And I probably get some inspiration from comics and from other things. And I know that there's been like, what is it? Black Bolt, right? Who uses his voice to destroy whatever he needs or to fight villains. But I wanted to punch these screaming guys just right in the tooth. Like it was annoying.
Yeah.
It was really annoying.
I will admit, I'm curious as to how some people discovered their powers. You know, like so, like
Yes.
you know,
You're 3 years old. You're throwing a fit. Suddenly the cat explodes. You know? Oh, okay. You're a screamer. Now we know.
Yeah, like you know, I get the precog, right? She goes, "Oh, Dad's coming home with chicken today. How do you know that? I just saw it and I had to draw it." So like okay, that makes sense, right? And then one guy, you know, he's reaching for his bottle of Coke and it comes to him. And he goes, "Oh, I'm this thing, right? I can do telekinesis." But you're not wrong. Did somebody just get stub their toe and scream and the fish all explode? You know, like, oh, he's a
or the sniffers. Think of that. Somebody's just like, you know, how, because we don't normally just pick up random stuff. And I mean, I don't just pick up random stuff and smell it. Maybe that's a judgment that I'm making. Okay.
That's how I work IT. I just pick up a floppy disk and smell it. Oh, okay. This has 3 gigs left of space. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's how I pick movies for the podcast. I just smell the DVDs that I have. Ah, yes. This week I'm in the mood for Blade 2.
This is a true story. I remember being in 4th grade and we read the book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I remember smelling the book and telling the whole class, "Everyone, smell your books. They smell like chocolate." And really, it was just musty old books, right?
Yeah.
But everybody thought after I said that it smelled like chocolate.
You should have said it smells like schnozberry.
Well, at the time, I didn't know what schnozberries was.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
You pushed that thought right into their head. So see, maybe you're a pusher, right?
And a book sniffer.
Yeah.
And a book sniffer.
I don't like.
All hail the mighty book sniffers.
Yeah. Book sniffer. Book sniffer. Book sniffer. I don't like the idea though that. So the movie's called Push, right? But it doesn't feel like most of the movie is about people that do push things. But maybe it is. I don't know. But I don't like that word for what they're doing.
It has a drug connotation that is interesting, right? And also, so like the pushers aren't drug pushers, which is what we typically think of when we hear the word pusher. Yeah, it was interesting that was what and to me that felt like, you know how sometimes movies and books too have a title that is supposed to give you the adrenaline rush of whatever it is. It's kind of like how titles try to be automyopia. You know, we're going to be buzz. We're going to be this thing so that you already have the feeling before you even start it. And to me, that's what Push felt. It was that kind of idea. I'm trying to think now. My brain's making a connection here. There was a movie, help me out. It had Jason Statham in it, and he couldn't relax because then he would die. So he had to keep his heart rate up.
Yeah.
Crank. Okay, that was the same thing. Like you have this one word, and it gives you all these images and like almost an adrenaline feeling before you even know anything else about it. And so that was why I figured it was called Push, even though it was mainly about a mover. But I guess move wouldn't have looked as good up on the marquee.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when I saw this movie or saw the previews for this movie back when it first came out, I assumed before I went to the movie or before I rented it or whatever it was, that the movie was about a group of people with powers that all of them could push the same way. Like that's the only power that there was, kind of like Jumper, I guess, because in that movie they just all can jump, right?
Yeah.
So and maybe that's why I connected those two films, but
well, and also to be fair, in the preview, it's all about like these people who have powers, and then what you see a lot is the telekinetic powers happening, and then it's called Push. So I was like, oh, okay, there are a bunch of telekinetic people.
Yeah.
Those are the movers. Like, so there was already that disconnect.
Yeah.
And then of course the screamers, who, like you said, they're like banshees, basically, with the screaming. And I thought that the camera work was really interesting when they would scream and how it would zoom in real tight on them. It was a different type of method than the rest of the film, basically. And it looked kind of vaguely kung fu-esque. You know what I mean? It was like this very exaggerated thing.
Yeah.
Or comic
It was-
booky.
It was a little
Yeah.
anime. I think is word I would use.
Yeah.
A little
Yeah,
anime.
yeah.
Anime, thank you. That's better.
That's it.
When you said I didn't think about it until just now. I can't remember. Are they doing that effect where you push the camera in but you zoom out so it kind of stretches the back? I don't remember. Did
Yeah.
they do that?
Yeah, it was slightly
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. I like that effect. Ow! I just hit my arm. I like that effect a lot when movies do that. I think that's a cool effect when it's used well. And that
Right,
dude, I mean,
and sparingly. I feel like it needs to be used sparingly for emphasis because that's what makes you feel brought in. When it happened, I think Hitchcock was the first person to use it, and then they used it to really great, in Jaws. They used it perfectly there too. You have that feeling of it. But if you have it happen 5 times in a less than 2-hour movie, then you're kind of like, oh, this again. It's not. It doesn't make it as scary or as intense.
yeah, I remember
It makes it more
specifically
annoying.
the first time I was aware of it was in Lord of the Rings in the Fellowship when the 4 hobbits fall down onto the road and Frodo realizes they're on a road and it does that push-pull thing and it makes the road stretch and kind of move and then he screams, "Get off the road." I remember thinking, hey, that's a cool technique. That weirds me out. So anyway. So I'm going to do a couple of things here to kind of talk about some of the stuff that I like, just so that this episode doesn't feel like we're doing nothing but just poo-pooing the thing. So, okay, hold on. I'm gonna pause that. I'm actually gonna go to another thing that annoyed me. The shaky cam drove me a little crazy. I had forgotten how shaky cam this movie was, and
Again, it's a really useful tool if used in specific ways. And I feel like they were using the shaky cam when the watchers were getting their visions, right? To kind of offset so you knew, okay, that's a vision versus this is not a vision. And then I also know that they shot a lot like guerrilla filming on the streets of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So like that was also part of it. And yeah, that's weird, but okay. Yeah, I didn't particularly like it either.
Yeah, I knew the guerrilla style thing, and there's a great piece of trivia which we'll get to about specifically the guerrilla style shooting, and for those that don't know what that means literally like it's a super small crew. You just camera guy, maybe a sound guy, maybe one like dude with like a light, and then your actors and director, and you just go places and record. And typically, if you're doing guerrilla, you're doing it kind of illegally. Like you're doing it because you don't really have permission, or you don't have the ability to close down a street to do a thing. That's what it means.
Right.
The handful of times on the movies that I worked on, we did guerrilla style was because we didn't have permission. Like we were shooting a scene where a guy was saying goodbye to his dead parents, but we didn't have permission to film at the cemetery. So we literally ran onto a cemetery and filmed. And we never showed the face or any of the front of the tombstone because we didn't have a budget to create a tombstone. So it was always just the back of the tombstone looking up at him as he's crying over his dead parents. So anyway.
Well, I was a film studies major briefly, and we made a student film, and it was the same thing. Every single thing that we did, we filmed in front of like the hospital and the library and like in the dorms at Santa Clara University and all of these random places that we couldn't, and we would have to we had walkie-talkies so that when the security guards would show up, we would scatter and then meet at the cars 2 blocks away so you wouldn't get arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah, we not to go too much of a tangent down there, on the TV show I did in Charleston, we got kicked out of an apartment complex because we started our production day at 7 a.m. Well, we're not a big crew, but we're still a crew of about 25. We're loud. So at about 9:30, police showed up and said, "You guys, you can't be here. You don't have a permit. You got to go." And so we just went to a different apartment complex that the production was renting. This was actually my apartment. So in the scene in the TV show, the actor wakes up, goes into the living room or to the kitchen to make breakfast, and it's in one apartment. And then there's a knock at the door, and he goes to answer the door, and it's my apartment. And then they go back inside to have the conversation, and it's the original apartment. And then when he leaves, it's back in my apartment. And I mean, and it's obvious, like the walls are white in one room and yellow in the other, and the furniture is different. Like, I mean, it was totally different. It was great. But whatever, Anyway,
So, Sean, before we hop on before you hop on the saving this movie train,
yeah,
I've got one more big poop to throw at us.
yeah.
And maybe it's because of the time and I'm more aware of it than I used to be, certainly back in 2009. I felt like this movie is yet another whitewashed movie set in Hong Kong. And the majority of, I mean, there are some actors in the film that have speaking roles and main roles that are Asian. But for the most part, I mean, this entire story is about a group of white people in Hong Kong, right? And I just, that kind of took me out this time. I don't know if it's a huge deal, but you're in Hong Kong, so I feel like we would have interacted more with some local people than we did. I don't know.
I think that could have been saved if they had made it look futuristic a little bit more to maybe be more of like, this isn't modern day Hong Kong or modern day white people, whatever. Because I know the director wanted to have this idea of this is like Casablanca, where everybody went to Havana and that was like a safe place for people. And so Hong Kong is the safe place for all the psychics, et cetera. They're all in hiding there. But I don't feel like that was really shown. It didn't seem like that was why they were there. It just seemed like that's where they happened to be. So I feel like there's something either got edited out or maybe they didn't think that they needed to show us. But like, why was it in Hong Kong? I don't think was clear, and I think that could have saved it. But I vote on that too.
We needed San Francisco. Is that what it was?
Yeah, from Big Hero 6. Yeah,
Big Hero 6. Yeah,
that
would have helped.
To put a pin on this one, it's not whitewashing in that it's not like this is based off of a TV show or a movie that was Chinese originally, and we hired a bunch of white actors to play Chinese part. This is
whitewash.
Not,
maybe that was the wrong term.
Well, you're fine.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, this movie was an original idea. This was a dude that the director got the idea basically because he read a bunch of these these declassified documents about what the Nazis were doing. I mean, that opening line where the Nazis were trying to do things, that's based on actual stuff. And so he decided to take, what would happen if we were a generation after the success of that? And that's why we're in this time and whatever. But yeah, Kaylee, I think is right with the reason why it's in Hong Kong is because it's just an easy place to hide, though it doesn't seem to be. It just seemed like people were constantly running into each other in the largest city on the planet. They're just constantly running into each other.
Very confused about why anybody was there. Like, we know that Nick had gone a bunch of different places and now was there. Like, they established that. But I wasn't 100% clear on where Kira had escaped from, if she, and where Cassie and her mom had been, and where Cassie's mom had been taken from her. And then did she get on a plane from somewhere and end up in Hong Kong, or were they in Hong Kong to start with? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't understand how the players got to where they were ahead of time, and that was one of my questions about this movie.
It did make me feel.
I bumped on.
Yeah, the ending made me feel like because they're on a private jet heading somewhere. So the division he works for is the American one. He does, even though he's very not American. Digimon Hansu, but he being very not American, but he worked for the American division, and I think they even made the argument that like you don't want to pick a fight with the American government, and that the Chinese crime boss was like, well, we're the government around here, so deal with it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. So some of the things that I did like. One, I thought Chris Evans was actually really good in this movie, and I like Chris Evans, and I'm super biased, and I think he's good in kind of everything that he's in. And I thought he did actually really well acting off of Dakota Fanning, who I thought was kind of poopy.
Just blah. Back up. Hold up. Pause just a moment here.
Yeah.
You thought Chris Evans was good in Fantastic Four?
It's a bad 2 movies, but he's fine in them.
Is he though?
Yeah. I mean, I guess. I don't know. It's been 10 years since I've seen him.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, okay, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe he figured out how to act after those movies. Maybe he went back and watched those and said, maybe I should do the opposite of that, and I'll be a very successful person in my own.
He was okay, but he wasn't special. He was just kind of there. He was like a cardboard person who just.
Well,
yeah, I didn't get much off of him, and you didn't get much off of Dakota.
I mean, he was cast because he's pretty and he's in good shape, right? Because we didn't know who he was yet. He certainly was. We're still a year away from Captain America, or 2 years away from Captain America, and so all we knew him from was the 2 bad Fantastic Four movies. There might have been some other things. Snowpiercer hadn't happened yet, so
Yeah. Now that one, that was great.
Yeah, and he acted his ass off in that movie. I thought he did great. So I'm looking here. Let's see. What did we see him in before this? So before this, let's see. He did Sunshine. So this I think I actually remember reading that Sunshine is what kind of led him to this. He did something called Street Kings, Battle for Terra. He was a voice. TMNT, the cartoon movie I think that we did. He was the voice of Casey Jones. And then Fantastic Four, I guess the Fantastic Four 1. The year later, he would do Scott Pilgrim. The next year, he would do Scott Pilgrim. So, I mean, he's a pretty guy. I don't think he's not bad in this movie. I think he's one of the better spots. I think personally, but again, Kayla, you're right. It's nothing special, but no one is special in this movie, honestly.
Well, one person is special in this movie.
Oh.
Yes. The goddess.
The goddess what? I'm sorry?
Oh, did I cut out? I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
Okay. Yes, the goddess. The goddess Ming-Na. And I want to make sure I'm saying her name right.
Oh, yeah.
I love her so much. Okay, I don't know what happened to my notes. My notes went away. So I just can't do anything about that.
Well, while you look for your notes.
Yeah, no, Ming-Na. Here it is. It is Ming-Na. So, yes, the goddess Ming-Na. I told you this before we started recording. ER is one of my favorite shows of all time, one of them. And she was on that, and she is on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and The Mandalorian and Mulan, and she's amazing, and I love her. And she did not have enough to do in this because she only had a couple scenes. Yeah. But the scenes that she had were great, and she was great in them. So... there.
Yes, well, yeah. Again, you said it, and I want to make sure people understand. She is Mulan in the cartoon. Yeah. She is the voice of Mulan. So I want to make sure. So, which was great because as soon as she came on screen, my wife said, "Hey, that's Mulan." Like she knows exactly. What it is. So, but yeah,
I did. I squealed a little bit when she showed up. I was like, "Oh, hooray! More of her, please."
Yeah, she's good. She is good, and you're right. She has very little to do, and that's kind of a shame. Honestly, it would have been kind of cool to see her actually punch somebody. I would have kind of enjoyed that a little bit.
Indeed.
Yes. I also think Digimon. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Jamon. Maybe the D is silent like Django, so it would be Jumanji Hanzu. I think he's pretty good, but I kind of like him in everything. He's always just kind of good at everything. He's in Gladiator, he's in Guardians 1 and Captain Marvel.
Yeah. I've never really seen him in a big role. I think this might be the most that I've seen him interact with people on screen.
He was in Constantine too, also. But again, a smaller part.
The side actors, the little bit parts, I thought were interesting acting. Like I said, Ming-Na. I liked Neil Jackson. I've enjoyed him. I like Corey Stoll. He was one of the agents. He was the bald agent who got killed from House of Cards and Ant-Man.
Yeah. I like him too.
The other agent is Scott Michael Campbell. He's been in a bunch of stuff, and most recently in Shameless. I just the bit actors I thought were good, and probably because it was that however long ago, it's fun to see them then and now kind of see where they are now. But yeah, Chris Evans was just okay. Dakota was fine, And the girl who played Kira, I didn't even write her name down because I was so unimpressed. So
Camilla Bell, who got first billing, top billing in this.
wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Camilla Bell. She's known for Practical Magic and 10,000 BC.
She was 10 or something in Practical Magic. So I don't think she's known for that. She just happened to have been a child actor in that movie with Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman.
Well, when
you know.
She's also known for her song.
She's in Lost World, Jurassic Park. I don't know what
Oh, wow.
I don't know who Kathy Bowman is, but I mean, yeah, Practical Magic. Yeah, she was 11. She's literally cast as Sally at age 11. But she was top billed. I don't know why. I'm trying to look and see what she did before this that would give her that 10,000 BC. But she's in one of those dumb Nespresso commercials that George Clooney has been doing for 20 years. But what's she doing now? She's in the Mickey and the Roadster Racers show. She's Almonda de Quack. So
Okay.
yeah, she was pretty. That was kind of it. Like I didn't think she had. I don't think she was a very good actress. She's pretty.
and I didn't really care for her acting, and then also she, was a little bit undermined because her character was so crappily written. I think it felt like there was a lot of potential there that wasn't utilized in what the character of Kira could have or should have been. She did things that were internally inconsistent with what she did she was confusing. It was a mess. She to me was probably the weakest link of the whole thing. I'll take Chris Evans and Dakota Fanning over that every day of the week.
That's fair. Okay. Other things. Let's see. Watching her fix him when he's all bleeded out, and so then the fixer lady comes in to fix him. I said that's like watching
them back together.
Yeah, that's like watching the chiropractor adjust me. That's what it kind of feels like. Let's see. The power of pushers is kind of scary. It is a little scary what they can do to people. Just if you actually kind of think about it, like it is kind of terrifying.
Oh yeah,
it's terrifying, and I actually really liked the way that they showed that power. Sometimes they told us things that we didn't need them to tell us, and sometimes they didn't tell us things that I wish they had. But I really liked the idea that you had to have eye contact in order to be able to push somebody, and they didn't tell us that, but we watched it happen. We saw, and so we understood. And then when somebody was talking at the end, when he, talking to Kira, and he's telling her, "Oh, this is a thing, blah 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 blah," and she doesn't. We're not seeing his eyes, so we can't tell if he's pushing her or not when he's telling her that she's an agent and she's this and she's that. I just found that really compelling. I thought it was interesting. It was a good twist. So, I kind of saw it coming, but I liked the way that they showed the pushing, the black eyes and the creepiness of it.
Yeah. Those shark eyes. I did write the guy who can shift. Right, who can change the object, right? The shift doesn't last forever. So, it's a temporary thing. So when he pulls out the blank piece of paper with 500 written on it and then turns it into a 500, I don't know what their currency is, note, and hands it to her, she's all excited. In about an hour, she's going to get pissed. And she's going to remember that guy gave her a fake note. Like, I couldn't believe that he would like. He seems like he's this super rich guy because it kind of made me feel like he's rich because he can just make money. He's literally a bank teller, and so. I feel like he would get found out pretty quickly. It seemed hard to believe that he would be allowed to stay at that club. For what I'm saying, am I thinking too hard?
You know what I wondered in that scene? When he pulled out of his wallet and it said 500 written on the bill, did it really have to have that written on there? Couldn't he have just had a piece of paper and He took the time to write 500 on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So that he could just remember what he's going to turn it into later, because in the moment you don't want to have to think about it.
I guess
maybe that, or maybe I don't know, because
I think your point is well made about the inconsistency of the powers. We don't know how long they last. Sometimes it seems like it lasted a long time, and sometimes it didn't seem like it lasted very long at all. It's the same kind of thing with like the shadow. There were limitations of the shadow. There were limitations with the moving of things, right? But was there a limitation with the pushing? So this brings me to a thing. They show us how scary pushing is. And one of the ways that they show us that early on is they have somebody commit suicide, get pushed into committing suicide, which is horrible, right? You're like, oh my God, that's a pretty epic thing that you can do to somebody to make them commit suicide. At the same time, we know that there are agents out there, who are older and who have done things, and this guy was useful, and they could push him, so they could make him forget that, or make him, it's basically like a mind control. So why would we need him to commit suicide then? What was the point of killing that character? And I thought maybe it's so that at the end, when we don't see the suicide, we see her push the guy to commit the suicide. At the very, very end, it's that's not so shocking, but that almost undermines it. I feel like if they hadn't had the guy commit suicide earlier, and at the very end, Kira had made her quote unquote boss guy commit suicide, that would have been shocking and a really compelling ending. Like, oh my gosh, this is really bad. But to have it happen so early, I think it undermined it. And it didn't make any sense about why you would get rid of one of your agents who you've trained, who has powers. Why get rid of that guy?
To answer that question specifically, one is that we have to remind the audience that he is a bad guy, and bad guys have the trope where they kill their own people to prove that they're bad guys. So it's just a trope, right? Because we see it all the time, like Captain America, when the Red Skull guy, there's one guy who's like, we fought to the last man. He goes, obviously not, and then kills him. I'm like, well, you could have used that guy, but no, you're going to shoot him. So bad guys do it all the time in movies. It's dumb. It's just to remind us that they're bad. So he failed at his job, and I guess maybe, the boss man thought, he even kind of jokes about it, and I captured the clip where he kind of says, I don't want you putting a gun in my face. And maybe he was just eliminating a possible threat to his own plans. So,
yeah, I guess the idea though, if you have the people out there who could put thoughts into your head like, you're fine until you see your boss the next time, and then you're going to want to kill him. Like that seems like a pretty useful thing to do. But then shouldn't pushers also be able to sense when other people have been pushed, or maybe push back, or have mental blocks, so that, you know what I mean? I thought that was, I don't know. Especially when that guy showed up and I keep calling him that guy. I can't remember his name in the film. When he shows up and he's talking to Cassie, and she won't make eye contact with him because she doesn't want to get pushed, and it was very clear. And they have this very tense conversation. That was actually one of the scariest parts of the movie. Was, this guy who we know can make you commit suicide is now talking to Cassie, and she's terrified and she doesn't want to look at him. That and her being drunk were the only two times that I really believed Dakota Fanning.
Well, and her part is so compelling because the line she says, we all can 100% relate to. And she says, please don't make me hurt myself.
Yeah.
Like that's something we can all understand is pain. It was very compelling, and it was a very sincere moment, and it's a little terrifying. The problem with the pushers is that they're kind of OP. Their only limitation is eye contact. All that guy needs to do is, if he wants to just watch the world burn, is to get a meeting with the president of the United States. I'm saying, like, or a general or something, or find a Secret Service agent or something.
Which is
he
why
would go.
I feel like I feel like that's why there should have been some acknowledgement that it was limited. Like you could push somebody, but it would only last for so long. Because even when Kira escaped from Corey Stoll, who's the agent, she pushed him, and then afterwards he's like, my mind is clear now. I got her out of my brain. You know what I mean? So like, there's this built-in that it doesn't last. It's not a forever thing. You're going to have to keep upping it, keep pushing them again to believe whatever you've told them. But I feel like it wasn't clear enough how it worked and how long it lasted.
Yeah,
So.
I guess we're trying to make it kind of like the
Maxwell Lord from Wonder Woman.
No, I was thinking more of like one of the curses from Harry Potter, one of the unforgivable curses, not the Cruciatus curse, but the mind control curse, right? It does wear off.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one that one is, but doesn't matter. But anyway, but I mean, like even when he's in the car, he's explaining to him like, I remember my brother. I remember growing up. Like he's reliving these memories from however long ago that was. So if it does eventually wear off, it was.
Is that what was happening? Because I thought what he was saying was he felt like it was so real, like he felt like he had a brother, but he doesn't really.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's saying it felt so real. I remember having, growing up with him and getting into arguments or whatever he says. Like he's explaining that the memory was so real. Yeah. And so that's when the other guy says, don't shoot me in the face because I slept with your sister you don't have. Then he's like, wait, I don't have a sister? Because like now he doesn't know what is real anymore. Which is, it's a funny line, but now poor guy, he's so terrified he's got to go make an Ant-Man costume and then go fight with Thomas the Tank Engine. Couple last little notes here before we get to other things, and that is, I have to play this. I'm contractually obligated to play. I gotta find it. We had a montage. Oh, it's been a while since we've had a good montage. We had the montage of the plan, figuring out the plan, and that very 1998, club music that was happening. That's what it reminded me of. Like I was watching Blade 1 or The Matrix. Was that music?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the soundtrack was really interesting. How it would kind of come up and then go out and then come up and. Specifically like earlier when Cassie was feeling sad and waiting somewhere, and it was just a lot of shots of her with this music overlaid, and I was like, wow, we could have just cut this whole scene. Okay, but yeah, but the music definitely added something. Not sure if it was a good or a bad thing, but it added.
Okay. The last thing, a couple last things I wrote is, I'm sorry, but if that old lady had actually fired that pistol holding it the way she was, it would have broken her wrist.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that too.
That's some of the dumb things I noticed. Falling body ex machina. Was that part of Chris Evans' plan, is to have a body fall down so he can get out of the trunk? That was a good plan.
Convenient, yes.
Yeah. I love the ex machina. Whenever I can bring out an ex machina, I'm gonna bring it out. So falling body ex machina. I also wrote he does like going akimbo. Especially since we watched recently Harry Potter go guns akimbo. That was fun. And then the last note was: is this setting up a sequel? Was this set up for a sequel?
Yeah, it felt like it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It did.
Or like this was a very long pilot for a television show. I could have seen that.
How much did this bring in at the theater? Or
not a lot. Not a lot. It did not do great. It did. Like I said, it was a $38 million budget. I think it made like $50 million.
Yeah. So I guess they saw that and said, it's probably not worth a sequel. Plus, Chris Evans got involved with some better stuff and got busy doing that.
Yeah, he did get a little busy with the other things, like Scott Pilgrim and again other good movies. Other good movies. Not saying Scott Pilgrim's not good because we all love that. And I'm wondering. I mean, it's not like it was a summer release where it was going up against Star Trek. You know, it was a February release. So
the kind of movie you go see on Valentine's Day.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
A perfect date movie.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong. All right. That's all the notes I have. If you have any other notes before I do Clippy Clips?
I do, yes. Okay, because IMDb is a thing, there's an aspect of IMDb that I find incredibly hilarious, and sometimes it's fine, and sometimes it's just amazing. And this is one of those amazing times. So in IMDb, you can sort things by plot keywords. I'm going to read you the top 20 plot keywords that are put into IMDb that come up with this movie. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay. Black-eyed, non-comic book superhero, short skirt, eye candy, mini skirt with boots, girl wearing mini skirt, mind control, forced suicide, psychokinesis, soy sauce, tiger, changing the future, predicting the future, seeing the future, secret government agency, future, Hong Kong, teenage girl, mini skirt.
So the mini skirt and the soy sauce kind of those are two that
Mini skirt with boots. It's a very specific market right there.
Yeah. That's great.
Oh my god.
Wow.
I was like,
but that's weird because that kind of makes you think like they sexualize the girl in the miniskirt. They don't sexualize Dakota Fanning because she's 13.
Almost 13. And like, she's not sexualized except that she is wearing a miniskirt and boots. And I thought, why aren't you wearing jeans? That just seems like they would be way more practical for all this running around that you're doing, but sure. But when she did get drunk and she passed out on the couch, she was a little splayed and everything. And I was like worried for a minute that there would be something that there wasn't, thankfully. But yeah, it's a weird thing that what it was selling there.
Yeah.
But,
she comes from a liberal or none. Sorry, I don't want to piss off any of our Amish listeners.
Yeah. I do sometimes write down tropes. The tropes that I wrote down was hero has a, and I use quotes, gambling problem. Usually it's just some kind of problem. In this case, it's a gambling problem. But it was a problem at the beginning of the movie, but it was never a problem again. So.
Okay. Why? I feel like it wasn't a gambling problem as much as it was he can't control his power problem, because if he could control it, there would be no more problem. And I felt like he was constantly trying to control his power, and then apparently all he really needed was a quest, and then he could control his powers in a much more substantiated sort of way.
Yeah, he just needed to get shot at.
I think if I'm learning to control my powers, though, I'm going to do it in a way that's not going to cost me $1,000 a pop.
Yeah, or get beat up by a giant man.
Yeah.
Well, that's you using logic.
Yeah. The other trope I wrote down is you'll know when to do the thing. So like, hey, when should I do the thing? Oh, you'll know. I need details.
Yeah.
I don't do well with that. I remember we watched The Old Guard, where they're like, wait for the signal. It's like, what's the signal? You'll know what the signal is. And then like a church explodes. Oh, I guess that's the signal. Just anyway. And then bad guy uses his own power to accidentally kill himself. They did that. Okay.
Yep.
Anything else, Kaylee, you got, or are you ready for a clip or two? If you got more, we can kind of intersperse it if the clip reminds you of the thing.
No, go ahead.
All right. I labeled this one. I was not in it. Usually when I label my clips, I give myself more context. I just did single words. I don't know why. I guess I was being minimalistic tonight. So this one is just called Bead.
Why is that olive out of the glass?
It's not an olive. It's a bead.
It's a bead?
Yeah, it's a bead. It's a shimmer art in there.
Well, it looks like a pimento. If I was going to draw a bead,
It's a bead with a shimmer.
What does the bead have to do with it?
I just thought that was funny. That book she was drawing on had a lot of color, but I only ever saw it with one pencil.
I said the same thing while we were watching. again, I feel like this is a missed opportunity because what if that hadn't been a book with paper? What if it had been like a pad or something and that she was like drawing and that's why it had all these cool colors and it looked like wet paint chalk, but it was literally like one thing. I thought that would be cool, but no. Yeah, I don't know. She didn't seem to have a lot of colors, but she definitely was colorful.
Yeah, for a 13-year-old though. Like, I'm no artist, but my son is 8, my youngest, and he can. Maybe he's more talented than a 13-year-old Dakota Fanning, but
You think if they made this movie now, she would have to carry an iPad and draw, and then like they would make it as a thing, like that she gets shot at and drops the iPad, and now she has these visions, but she can't put them down on paper, so it becomes a problem.
what a real power would have been was if she had an Etch-a-Sketch. And
Yes. Oh, that would have improved this movie.
or a Magnadoodle.
Like she draws this super like detailed thing, but then Chris Evans bumps her and it shakes.
I love it.
Here we go. Sister.
Is there anything else you might have put in your head? I'm only asking because I don't want to be shot in the face for screwing some made-up sister you don't really have.
I don't have a sister?
There you go.
Yeah.
Here's sorry, go ahead.
I just feel like that was his way of saying, look how easy it is to mess with your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was scary.
Yeah. Here's 11 seconds of, I think, the worst exchange in the movie, personally. So, there you go. We can argue it, but I think this is the worst exchange in the movie.
So, Pinky, your wife gave you that name?
No, the division did, sweetheart. Back in the day.
I hate. First of all, I hate it that he calls her sweetheart.
Agreed.
You didn't hear that, Andrew?
No.
You didn't? Oh. Are you guys hearing my clips?
They're choppy, but I recognize them.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't hear any of that one, but it's okay. I trust you.
Okay. Well, this is going to be weird. Maybe Discord is not allowing me pushing audio through to you guys.
It is choppy, but yeah.
This is the first time we use Discord, and now we're learning the limitations. It doesn't like playing clippy clips. It's like, ooh, that's copyrighted material. We're not going to let you use it. Well, this clip is entitled Tomato.
Tell him my family going to make his brain pop like a tomato.
Any of that? Did you get any of that?
Yeah, I got all that one.
Okay, good. So, do tomatoes pop?
Well, yeah.
Okay. I thought the same thing at first, and then I remembered that there are cherry tomatoes, like the little ones that you put in your mouth, and then you punch with your back teeth, and then like the little spray goes flying out of your mouth and hits your sibling across the table, right?
fair.
That's like a thing. So
They'll also pop if you put them in a frying pan and you know.
That's fair.
Fry.
It was a weird. I pop like a balloon. Balloons pop. You know, it just. Seems...
But they're not as visceral. Think of the mess of a popped tomato.
No, I get the imagery. It was a weird word at the moment. It just, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, balloon is not as. It's like something about Mary. Like, where did it go? Like, you know.
Yeah. The clip you missed, Andrew, I guess I should have addressed it. The clip that you missed was the scene between Pinky and Kira, where she says, "Did you get your name Pinky from your wife?"
Oh,
and
yeah.
he says, "No, sweetheart. It was from Division." And then he holds up his CGI'd missing finger.
Right.
And I hated that because I hated it.
How did you feel about some of the CGI in this movie?
It didn't bother me. I thought it was fine.
I liked the low tech camera tricks that they did. It felt
there were a few.
Yeah, the director said specifically he wanted to keep it as physically realistic as he could and not do a lot of CGI. Now, that's probably budgetary. He's making it kind of come across as being artsy, but I think it's budgetary effects simply. Because really the only CGI we really get is exploding fish and when the telekinesis fight's happening. You get a little bit of like force things happening, which I thought was kind of cool. Here's a little moment between Chris Evans and Dakota Fanning.
Just tell me me that I'm a crappy artist and that I'm wrong.
You are a crappy artist, and you are wrong.
Andrew tells me that every day.
She is a crappy artist. She's 13. Come on, take an art class.
You know, I kind of couldn't tell what her pictures were supposed to be half the time, but I wasn't sure if that was her being a crappy artist or me just not being able to tell what was on her little tiny thing when you would get it real quick. Because some of them I was like, okay, I get what that is. But sometimes I was like, it's like an artistic impression of something. I don't know. Yeah, it was hard. The other gal, Pop Girl, I think was what she was billed as.
Yeah.
With her pencil charcoal drawings, like those were a little clearer.
Yeah, she's obviously older and probably, she's a better artist. And
she's been honing her craft.
Yeah. Well, when she's got an overbearing dad that will slap you in the face if you lose the connection because you have control over that, then yeah,
right.
she's probably, if she's not, watching something, she's probably drawing. I mean, that's probably all she's allowed to do other than, have lollipops. Soy sauce. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's like a weird thing to kind of, she's sexualized, right? And then yet she has the lollipop, which is the sexual thing of, yes, it's in your mouth, blah, blah, blah. But also it's a very young thing. And she's a victim, but also an antagonist. I wish the actress had been more skilled because I feel like that could have been an interesting role. But it wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know. What was you right? There was Pop Boy 1, Pop Boy 2, and then she was Pop Girl, I think.
Pop Girl. Yeah, she didn't get a name. And Kathy's mother, who was very important to the plot, is uncredited because we never see her face or anything. And I thought that was rather interesting. Very important to the plot, but uncredited, not seen.
Yeah, I was trying to do the math. So Pop Girl, she's my age. So I'm trying to think, what was I in 2009? I honestly don't remember what I was at that age. I was 30 in 2010. So, no, I wasn't. That's not right at all. I was 28. So she was...
Well, Sam was 67.
Yeah, so she's 27 when she did this movie. 26, 27 when she did this movie. So,
wow.
But you're not wrong. They made her look a little younger.
Yeah, definitely younger.
Yeah. Okay. Soy sauce.
Hey, what was it that I injected myself with?
9 Dragon soy sauce.
That's gross.
There you go.
And unhygienic.
Yeah, so...
and probably really bad for you.
Yeah, probably a little bad for you. You might want to go drink some water or something. That's a lot of sodium you just injected into your veins.
Yeah, wouldn't that cause coagulation or clot? I mean, soy sauce is kind of viscous. I don't... Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, man.
But,
it gives me the heebie-jeebies.
But now I have forever.
That's gross.
I have that for forever now. Just play that whenever I want.
That's gross.
There we go. So, just add that to the list of other random sounds that I have, like this, and Yo, mama. There you go. So I got a bunch of them. I mean, I literally do have a bunch. I have over 2,000 from the podcast. So there you go. All right, that's here we go. Time for this.
And now for some more bad news. Ready?
Little trivia. We've already mentioned some of it, but the gorilla style. But here's the great part about the gorilla style. This is this great story. So when Kira's walking down the street, right, all those are just people. None of them are actors. They're just people. And you know what? That might be another reason why they filmed it in Hong Kong, because they don't have copyright, or they don't have privacy laws like we do here. So like here, and if your face is on camera and you can be seen on camera, you in certain states, not all states, but in certain states, you have to have permission to show their face. They probably don't have that in China. So when she gets dragged off the street, like, to those passerbys, that was real. 2 white guys just kidnapped this girl, and no one stopped them. Like, it's kind of terrifying.
Yeah. It's super terrifying.
Oh my gosh. In Greek mythology, Cassandra, Cassie, the Dakota Fanning girl, was given the gift of prophecy, but also cursed so that no one would believe her. In this movie, Cassie is able to see the future, but has a hard time convincing those around her. There you go. In the hotel scene, the script called for Nick to touch Kira's butt while they kissed. On set, Chris Evans refused to touch Belle without her permission. Belle ended up giving Evans permission, and the scene was filmed as scripted. Now,
Aw.
I do play this sometimes. Andrew, again, he's very aware of this one, though I never have it nearby. Why do I never have this? I'm going to call this...
We ain't found shit!
Okay. So, here's my problem with this piece of trivia, right? Yes, it makes Chris Evans come across as a nice guy. What director comes up to him and says, "Hey, while you're kissing Belle, just grab her ass"? Like, that doesn't happen. You know,
wait. Wasn't there just a huge thing at the end of Stranger Things because the director told the kid actor, just kiss her and we'll get the natural response, and then he did, and she wasn't prepared? Like, wasn't that a big thing that was in the news?
I don't know.
Am I remembering it wrong?
No, I don't know. I mean, I do know that there are times when there's a kiss that happens on that does happen on screen, and it wasn't meant to happen. They just grab them and kiss them and things like that. I know that happens for some reason.
Yeah, there's a lot of directors who do stuff to people,
stuff.
To get that natural reaction and whatnot. And then you have to understand the power dynamic of whether or not, even if the actor or the actress says, "Oh yeah, it was fine," but what else are they going to say, right? So, I mean,
I guess
it might have been in the script, and then Chris was like, "Hey, this is in the script, but blah blah blah." I mean, it might not have been somebody taking him aside and being like, "It's a secret goose."
Yeah, I mean,
it could have been a premeditated goose.
If it's in the script, then I kind of feel like she should be aware that it's going to happen, and if she's uncomfortable with it, then she should say something, and then then you have the conversation, and you like to kind of think that in movies where the kiss is spontaneous, that the actors have a relationship good enough that ultimately they are kind of okay with what happened.
You'd like to think that.
You'd like to think that. Now, I do know, I've told this story on the podcast, but Kayla, you've not listened to it, and I don't remember what episode I told it, but a good friend of mine heard this story from a guy that was on set, and that was the set of The Exorcist, and there's a scene where The Exorcist? Yeah, it's The Exorcist, and there's a scene where the priests have to it was the priest or the mom? I think it was the mom has to react scared. Like the door opens and she has to be scared, like scared by something. So some directors will have code words that means to start recording without letting the actors know that they're being recorded. Sometimes they'll say, "Hey, we're just going to roll on this rehearsal," or sometimes they'll just use code words. Now, a film camera is kind of hard to not know it's being, run. But on the couple of movies that I did, we did that a couple of times. The director would just give me he would roll, the little roll your finger. And then I would whisper into the microphone to the mixer, "Hey, we're rolling sound," and we would just do some scenes, kind of be natural. Well, in the Exorcist, when they opened the door, the director was on the other side of the door, behind camera with a gun, and he fired the gun, and it was blank, but he fired a gun, and their reaction was genuine. They were scared because he just fired a gun at them, and that was what was in the movie. So. You're not wrong. Directors do some hinky stuff, and so obviously you couldn't get away with that now. But gracious.
One would hope not.
One would hope not. Okay, that's our trivia. Before I get to our top three, I'm going to change up the script a little bit here because, I'm just going to do something a little bit different. This is where I'm going to insert a commercial, so to speak, and say thank you so much for you guys who listen. Please take your time now to leave us a review on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, wherever you're getting the show. Please leave us a review. It's the best way to share the show, to get the show out. Leave a review for Pages and Popcorn. for Kaylia's podcast because it's really good. I've listened to a handful of episodes and they're a lot of fun. And I'm gonna be on one in June, I think. So we're aiming for a summer release. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So do those things, please. Seriously, it'd be a lot of help. All right, into commercial. I've not done that before in the middle of the show. It feels weird. We'll see how it goes. If we start getting reviews, because people are actually listening to this part of the show as opposed to the last 5 minutes where they just stop, then I'll know that it's working.
Hey, Sean, if it feels weird, just push through it.
Push through it. Thank
It'll
you.
be okay.
Time for this.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Speaking of pushing through, top 3 psychics. Movies with psychics in them. Andrew goes last because his lists are always better. So, Kaylia, you're our guest. You get to go first if you want to.
Okay. So, I picked 3, and they're not necessarily my top 3, but they're 3 that I like a lot.
That's
and
fine.
They have reasons. So the first one that I picked was probably the first movie that I remember seeing as a child that had psychics in it, and it made quite an impression. And so I picked Escape from Witch Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
That's my first choice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, not the one with The Rock, but the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, the original.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, because I think that was probably one of the first sci-fi things I saw as a kid. And I was like, this is cursed. Awesome. This is awesome. Yes. Then the other one that I picked, and it kind of connects to this movie a little bit, but I really liked it and I liked the book as well, is Men Who Stare at Goats.
Oh, that's such a good movie.
Yeah.
I've never read the book, but I love
it
the movie.
It is very different, but
Mhm.
it's bizarre and fun. And I happen to make a podcast where we talk about movies based on books, and that's on my list. I can't wait to talk about it at some point down the road. But anyways, and then my last one is also actually a movie based on, actually this is a short story, and it's a good tie-in to you, Sean, because I picked Minority
Report. Great.
And that's what we are going to discuss together in June. So I liked Minority Report a lot. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I know you
Those
kind
are
of
my
have
top
a rule on your show where you like to read the book before you watch the movie for the review.
Yes.
I've probably watched that movie 10 times. So
I watched the movie before I read the short story as well. But for me personally, to prep for the podcast, I always redo it in the quote unquote correct order.
That's fair. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go next. So I'm going So I'm going to switch one out because you had Minority Report. So I'm going to switch one out. So Minority Report's now my honorable mention. My third one is now going to be X-Men 2, which I think is kind of the only good. You know what? I'm going to switch it. I'm changing my mind. Logan. Logan is the best of the X-Men movies, followed by X2, and then the rest are kind of trash. You can fight me on that. I don't really care. They're all kind of terrible. So now my new number 2 is Psych the movie. I know he's not actually psychic, but he pretends to be, and everyone thinks he is, and I love it. And plus, how often do I get to bring up Psych?
I'll allow it.
Thank you. I'm trying to think. There's probably, I don't know. Would you consider like would the Vulcan mind meld be considered a psychic ability? Because if so, then I could definitely use any of the Star Trek movies. Would that be a thing?
I would.
I guess so.
Because you're mind reading. You just
psychic ability. Yeah.
You just have to touch them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Plus,
all right.
in the original series, Spock felt people's minds and controlled their minds from outside of the room by touching the wall in one of the early episodes. So that is straight up mind control.
Yeah. And Deanna Troi is an empath. That's so I always have to find a way to connect Star Trek. So there you go. So Star Trek is duly connected. And my number 1, Serenity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hot Girl McHottie. What's her name?
River Phoenix.
River Tam.
River Tam is her character name. Summer Glau is her real name. Yeah, she's psychic with Billy's. So there you go. All right, Andrew, thrill us with your awesome list as you often do.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's quite as awesome.
You always say that, and it's still always better.
Well, I also had X-Men, but I had Jean Grey listed
just as the character.
Instead of Professor Xavier, which they're pretty much the same person in some aspects.
Yeah, it's one can walk, one can't. One's a female, one can. One's the Phoenix, one's not.
Equally hot. Yep.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Which is it James McAvoy or is it the Patrick Stewart one?
Patrick Stewart.
Okay.
Please.
I mean, I think he's hot, so sure, I'm with you.
Number 2, I have Tangina in Poltergeist. Not Poultrygeist, but Poltergeist.
Oh, not Poultrygeist. Okay.
Yeah. Or Tangina. Maybe that's how you say the name. I'm not sure. We'll stick with Tangina, though, because it sounds safer. And then... And then number 1, I have an old, well, I won't say old, I guess it's older now, but Mel Gibson was in a film called What Women Want.
Oh my God.
Where he could tell what they wanted. And so that's my number 1.
Okay.
Oh.
With Aunt May in it, that movie.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. That's your thing. Time for this last little bit of business here.
Wait, what's supposed to happen?
This is where we give the movie a score from 0 to 10. Andrew, I'll let you go first. Kalia, feel free to use decimal points because after 300 and something movies, we like to have decimal points to really kind of distinguish them. Yeah. So what you got, Andrew?
Well, like I said, I don't think it was the best acting. It didn't keep my attention. Although Dakota Fanning is much better now in the show The Alienist, if you've seen that.
Yeah. I've not,
it's a
but I
good
want to.
Oh, you should definitely watch it.
Also
But
based on a book.
Yeah. And based off her performance in this one, though, and everything else, I can't. I think IMDb puts it a 6 something. I don't think I can quite go that high. I'm going to say about a 5.7 out of 10.
So you liked it just a little bit better than The Last Dragon?
Yeah.
Okay. Kalia?
Okay. I wanted to give it some kind of a 7, but since you said decimal points, I thought, well, let me think. When I was originally doing my research for this, and I wrote in PUSH, and I happened to have the caps lock on, I got the Purdue University Student Health Center, which is called PUSH, and their area code is 765. So I'm going to give this movie a 7.65.
Wow, that's amazing. I don't think I've ever seen such a clever way to come up with the score. That's amazing.
That's great.
Oh my gosh.
I just really want to get invited back. That's what's happening over here. I'm bringing my A game.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, definitely. We're gonna book you for April. Let's see. 7.65. Wow, that's a lot higher than I would have guessed. Either one of you. Honestly, that feels like a number I would have given, because, well, I still like this movie. Is the thing. It's not great. It has problems. I still like this movie though, and if someone said, "Hey, we're if like a different podcast said, Sean, hey, come on, we're gonna review Push," I'd be like, "Sweet, I get to talk about it again." So I don't know.
Would you watch it again?
I would definitely. Oh gosh, yeah, I would definitely watch
There you
this
go.
again.
Then then it needs a higher score.
Yeah, I would definitely watch this again. I might wait another 10 years and then watch it again, and then go, "Wow, this is in the same year Star Trek came out." That's weird. I'm gonna give it. Let's see what happens if I do the math. Yeah, I can't do that. 7.51. Exploding fish. So yeah, this is a fine movie. It's good. And I mean, well, hold on. I'm cheating now. I'm cheating. Okay, hold on. I can't give it a 7.51. 7.11. Because I just looked back and realized that I gave Ma Rainey's Black Bottom a 7.5, and this is not nearly as good as that Golden Globe winner.
Yeah.
So I got to give it a little bit lower than that, but that's fine. That's fine. See, I can cheat because I have the list in front of me. It's okay. So that gives us an average score of 6.82. That's a good number, I think. 6.82. I mean, that's fine, right? That puts it somewhere in the same range as Train to Busan or Midsommar or Summer, however you pronounce it. I don't know.
I think I would watch Midsommar again before I watch this one.
You could not pay me to watch that movie again. Somebody.
I'm going to just over here add that to my to be watched list and get back to you.
Oh gosh. I mean, it's a well-made movie. It's not
so uncomfortable though.
It's very uncomfortable. It's not a horror film. It's
No.
kind of billed as a horror film. It's not like people slashing at each other. There is death, but it's
If you just want to feel uncomfortable, like this is the way to do it.
for like 2 hours and 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it doesn't
often
let
what
up.
I say at night. I'm like, what do you want to do tonight? I want to feel uncomfortable for the next 2 hours. Let's find something that fills that void in our life.
This is not a spoiler. This is the closest thing I'm going to give you to that. There is the most non-sexual sex scene you will ever see in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it really is. It's literally doing the opposite thing most sex scenes are supposed to do for you. It's like the opposite of that.
Yeah, arousal is not a thing when you watch that one.
Yeah, whatever the opposite of that is, that's what it's doing. Anyway,
So it's like the cold shower of
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like you feel like you need the shower afterwards anyway. No, but you should watch it and then listen to our review of it. There you go.
For sure.
There's the plug. That's it. Gosh, that was so fun. Kaylee, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a blast, and I am so glad that I stalked you on Facebook and found your podcast and bugged you to come on.
Yes, I had a good time. Thank you. This was very cool.
So please tell us again, how do I get to your website and your Facebook and all the things that I can find of your show?
Great. Okay. So on Facebook and Twitter, it's Pages and Popcorn Podcast, and we are under the umbrella of the KMMA Media Podcast Network. So it's us and another podcast called Ghost Anthropology. So if you go to kmmamedia.com, you will find the link to Pages and Popcorn Podcast, where I and my co-host talk about movies based on books as well as the original source material. And you'll also see Ghost Anthropology, which is an archaeologist talking about ghosts and folklore. And coming in the next couple months, there will be another podcast that will be launching on that site, but I'm not allowed to talk about it yet.
That's fair.
So stay tuned.
It's not us.
And it's not you. No, you're not joining me. Also, just LayliaMetcalf.com. You can find all the same links to Pages and Popcorn, etc. And I write book reviews. I write a book review every week, and occasionally I write about other stuff.
You read a book a week?
Well, I read more than a book a week because I write a book review every week, and then I do the podcast where there's books and movies, and I have to read in advance to that, and then I'm in like 2 different book clubs, and yeah, I like books. I'm a book sniffer, man. That's hardcore over here. So that's where you can find me.
It's amazing.
Laylia Metcalf and Pages and Popcorn Podcast. We're on Instagram and Twitter and
all the places.
Patreon
I'll link I'll link in the show notes.
places.
I'll link in the show notes. That's amazing.
Cool.
I'm still blown away by multiple books a week. Like when you and I agreed a week ago that we were going to be doing Minority Report in June, I was asking like, should I start reading it now? Because I mean, like Andrew and I don't, not knowing your personal situation, he and I both have 40-hour-a-week jobs with 2 children, right? Like this podcast takes up 75% of my free time during the week, not on a weekend. Yeah.
So I do freelance audio editing, and I edit my podcast, and then I edit and produce the other podcast on that network. And so that keeps me pretty busy. And I do other freelance consulting and computer work, and I do copy editing. So I'm on the computer and reading a lot anyways. That's my job, though. I'm freelance. So that's cool. What I do. And I have an 8-year-old as well. And so I'm here with her.
Okay. Solidarity with the 8-year-old. I too have an 8-year-old. So there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay. Well, gosh, I need to end the show. Otherwise we'll just keep talking and I'll keep recording and this will get super long and uncomfortable. Like that movie we were just mentioning. I'm totally kidding. This is not going to be close to that. I'm totally kidding. All right. That's it. That's the show. Again, our stuff is Cheapseat Reviews. Here's the funny thing. So I stopped paying for cheapseatreviews.com. It's still a thing. You can still go there and see, pictures of us and the artwork that Sam has done, whatever. But like, I haven't updated.
It's kind of like those buildings that used to be Walmart. You can still go. Like this, the building's still there.
Yeah.
You know that it was a Walmart.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you can go to our website, but you can only listen to episodes like 50 through 310. Yeah.
I discovered that because after you contacted me on Facebook, I was like, Google, and I was like, this is weird. What? Where? Huh? Yeah, I was confused first.
Yeah,
it looked like he'd like stopped and started again. Yeah.
Well, basically, I mean, we'll talk off air. So anyway, Facebook.com/Cheapseat Reviews, @CheapseatCast is Twitter, CheapseatReviews@gmail.com is that. We're also on Instagram where I'm actually posting things now for the first time. Like legit, I'm actually posting stuff like once every episode or something like that. It's actually kind of amazing. Social media is so weird. I've only really recently discovered Twitter for the podcast, like truly actually using it. It's taken up so much, like all of my lunch break is now doing this instead of watching fun TV shows like I used to do during my lunch break. So anyway.
He's working on a TikTok for us.
You know, I haven't actually opened
Totally
up TikTok in a while. I thought about it. It seems terrifying.
It is.
Yeah, it's a scary, scary place.
We're old. We can't do that.
No.
Yeah.
There's people that are older on that. Anyway, this is it. I got to end the show. Thank you so much for listening. So on behalf of Andrew and Kalia, this is Sean saying thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Oh, next week, by the way. Gosh, next week, Gross Point Blank. We're doing Gross Point Blank next week.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.